All right, it's Sunday night. It's 8 o'clock. It's time for the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. I'm here for you every Sunday night at this time. This is June 7th, 2020. You signed up to receive our weekly rundown of topics. Some folks told me this week they didn't get theirs. I've changed the way I do it. Maybe I missed somebody somewhere. If you are in the habit of getting an email and you didn't get one, let me know, and I will put you on the list. Email to thebibleforum@gmail.com. You can go to the website, thebibleforum.net, and the links and everything is there. I send out once a week alert as to what the topics are going to be. That's all I do. You won't get any other mail from me unless it's an emergency or something that's just really special. That's happened maybe once in the last 20 years. Are you paying any attention at all to the Carona news? Of course you are. It's all you can get. There isn't anything else going on. The medical community has all but impoverished our nation with their lockdowns. We are now learning that statistically, masks and closures were not necessary against this particular virus. But most people are not going to believe that. They're still wearing their masks, even while it has been proven that the masks do very little, from little to nothing, to stop the virus from spreading. Now, I realize that last statement is going to be challenged by all sorts of people. It's not my opinion. But only those who are either not paying attention or only get their news from mainline outlets are going to find this unique. This has been going on and been talked about for weeks now. The Mayo Clinic says the masks are ineffective. The CDC advises masks only when in close contact with others, just in case. They're acknowledging that homemade masks are almost useless. That from the CDC. Raina McIntyre, professor at University of New South Wales in Sydney, who also co-authored the Australian mask study, found homemade masks can actually increase the risk of infection. Something apparently about breathing in and getting your stuff back again. But liberals, revolutionaries, and radicals never let facts interfere with reality. Not when they want to establish their own power and policies. The only reason America is still a free country is because conservatives, largely found in the Republican Party by default, won't back down. If the Democrats of today get their way, the grand experiment, which is the United States of America, will fail. And should it fail, the world will be in serious trouble. This is what's at stake, not whether or not a mask stops germs or a president wants to protect and preserve the property and livelihood of citizens. A video has surfaced out of California, Fairfield, California. Looters are using a telescopic forklift to break down the doors of a Best Buy store. In the East Bay area, police said that, quote, caravans of cars full of looters, end of quote, have been roaming around systematically searching for targets. Authorities have been trying to crack down on these caravans of looters, but that's proven to be quite difficult because many of them are heavily armed. Elsewhere in Northern California, one group of looters just pulled off an absolutely stunning heist that is like something out of Fast and Furious films. Police in Northern California are searching for suspects after rioters reportedly stole more than 70 premium cars from a dealership near San Francisco last Sunday night. San Leandro Chrysler Dodge Jeep dealership owner Carlos Hidalgo said that although he blocked the exits as a precaution, the thieves, quote, started ramming until they could get out. They took out chains, fence posts. It was a very malicious act. This according to Fox 2 in Oakland. This means that at least 70 looters must have descended on this dealership simultaneously, because each of those cars would have had to have a driver. In Minneapolis, a number of council members are reportedly considering altogether disbanding the city's police department in the wake of George Floyd's death and the subsequent protests and riots that have erupted across the country in recent days. Going to disband the police department. What will they put in its place? No one's quite sure, quite yet. And all about George Floyd's death. Innocent George Floyd. I ran across an article written by a fairly famous actress. If you are on my mailing list, you got a copy of a video she did. She didn't say these words on that video. This was in a different article. But she says that George Floyd was not an amazing person, adding that George Floyd is being lifted up as an amazing human being. Owens noted Floyd's prison record and said that, quote, "I am not going to play a part in the broken black culture that always wants to martyr criminals, to pretend that they were upstanding human beings that just wanted to help society. He has a rap sheet that was long and dangerous. He was an example of a violent criminal his entire life." Okay, up until the very last moment. The Daily Mail noted that Floyd had been sentenced to 5 years in prison in 2009 after being convicted on a charge of aggravated assault that came from a robbery in which a woman had a gun pointed at her while the house was being robbed. The Daily Mail also showed a court document that said Floyd had served 5 stints in jail beginning in the 1990s. We tend to take these people who, taking nothing away from them in this regard, who were killed or otherwise imprisoned or something, brutalized, all of those things, unnecessarily, immorally, and all the rest of it, and we put them up on a pedestal. And we've got demonstrations all over the country, people carrying signs, and oh, poor this person or that person. Well, in this case, George was not somebody you would have invited to dinner. And who is it that's paying for all the bricks? In cities across the United States where demonstrations over the death of George Floyd in police custody are taking place, mysterious pallets of bricks are showing up in parking lots and on street corners, even in areas where no construction is taking place. In the article that I saw, they showed pictures of them, several pictures of them, sitting in parking lots, nothing else going on. Social media users are asking where they came from. Who paid for them? One suggestion is Antifa. According to the list on the website Sunday morning, in addition to closing 33 stores in Minnesota, Target is closing 46 stores in California, 2 in Colorado, 2 in Georgia, 7 in Illinois, 1 in Michigan, 1 in New York, 8 in Oregon, 3 in Pennsylvania, and 3 in Texas. This from westernjournal.com. The company said in a statement, "We are heartbroken by the death of George Floyd and the pain it is causing communities across the country. At this time, we have made the decision to close a number of our stores. We anticipate most stores will be closed temporarily. Underneath, some not." The company noted in its statement that it was concerned about the safety of its employees. People take to the streets, they feel they have a moral obligation to make a statement. Others perhaps end up looting stores and firebombing everything, putting people out of business, destroying drugstores, the only drugstore within walking distance for a whole raft of people who need medication, grocery stores the same way. And they're shocked when the owners of these stores decide not to come back. Whoopi Goldberg had a statement on the looting this week. She said, "All you looters need to stop." Goes without saying. Why? Well, she said, because you've destroyed too many people's dreams around the country. You've made it impossible for a lot of people to get back to their lives. I'm just saying, all you looters, just know your grandmother, your mother's mother, your brother's sister, your cousin's baby can't get their medication because you burned down the pharmacy or you burned down the bus stop. Good for Whoopi. WesternJournal.com published what I consider another inconvenient truth this week under the heading of One Immigrant's Observation. Her name is Nestrid Yumga. Sorry about that if it's not right. She's an American citizen who immigrated from Africa and is at least one black immigrant who is refusing to buy into the divisive rhetoric. She told Black Lives Matter protesters last Sunday, quote, "Black Lives Matter is a joke. You are the racists," end of quote. Yumga called out the hypocrisy of Black Lives Matter for refusing to acknowledge the exponential amounts of black-on-black crime, particularly in Chicago and other liberal-led cities. She said, when black people kill black people, they don't come out and do this crap, she said. The only time they do this crap is when a white person does it. 94% of black homicide victims from 1976 to 2005 were killed by other African Americans, according to the National Review, something they reported last year. Over the Memorial Day weekend in Chicago, 84 people were wounded by gun violence. 24 of them died, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. Go to Chicago, she said. They don't have schools, and they die every day. They don't matter to you because you can't get attention from that. While Democrat politicians ignore the economic and societal devastation of their policies, it has been President Donald Trump who has enacted strategies such as opportunity zones to help neglected neighborhoods. Yumga was, as you might imagine, told to shut up, and others mumbled that what she was saying was not welcome. Of course not. Does not fit the narrative. Ex-officer Derek Chauvin, the man in the video with his knee on George Floyd's neck, was cited 17 times for misconduct ranging from abusive language to being named in a brutality lawsuit. This according to the New York Times. Not until someone died did Minneapolis Police Department take action. And the question becomes why? Well, largely because of the strength of the union. One observer asked, if unions are responsible for keeping bad cops on the streets, they couldn't be responsible for also keeping bad teachers in the classroom, could they? In Buffalo, New York, the African Americans who came out to protest, according to the district attorney, were largely peaceful. He said, quote, "Just so you know, the overwhelming majority of the 10 individuals who were arrested last night were white. They were not African Americans. The African Americans who were down here last night were peacefully protesting, doing the right thing, as I have seen all across the country," end of quote. He charged that it is white individuals who are the agitators, and that it is true here in the city of Buffalo. 2 Brooklyn lawyers, females who are not black in color, including an Ivy League graduate corporate attorney, are facing federal charges over accusations they tossed a Molotov cocktail into a New York Police Department vehicle last Saturday morning during a protest over police killing of George Floyd. George wasn't killed in New York. Guess that doesn't matter. Collinford Mattis, 32, a corporate lawyer and member of Community Board 5 in East New York, was charged along with fellow attorney, I can't pronounce the first name, it's spelled Urooj, last name Rahman, with the attempted attack on an empty police cruiser parked outside the 88th Precinct Station House in Fort Greene. In the interest of clarity, there have been plenty of dark-skinned people rioting and looting all across the country, not just white. And even here, in our beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, the businesses hardest hit after last Saturday's protests here were those that suffered the most losses because of COVID-19. Downtown restaurants, downtown retailers, and hotels that during any other year would have been serving a high volume of out-of-town visitors over the weekend, but have been largely shut down for the last couple of months. A website called theconservativetreehouse.com said after a birthday party at the YWCA ended Saturday night, a group of about 60 black youth descended to rampage through downtown Charleston, damaging cars, assaulting and robbing people. When the story initially broke, the local news was reporting that police had told them there were no assaults. Only one media outlet is currently reporting the fact that all but one of the victims of these crimes were white. None of the local media is reporting the claims of victims and witnesses that the group of black teens were yelling hate-filled slogans aimed at white people. And just this weekend, businesses could not reopen because we needed to control the spread, flatten the curve, ensure the hospitals were not overrun. Venturing out made you a selfish retard. But just a couple of weeks ago, though some of you were already poking holes in the narrative, there was a great reversal. Some were grounded in good news. New York City, the mecca of U.S.-based outbreaks, saw deaths decline, hospitalizations stabilize. Then a CDC study showed that the mortality rate was around 0.04%, which makes the virus less deadly than the flu. Then the CDC said that the virus doesn't spread as easily on surfaces. This was one of the main reasons for the stay-at-home orders, because they said it did. Asymptomatic people could touch stuff and pass on the pathogen. The curve was flattened. States not heavily impacted were set to reopen, and the liberal media went haywire. Florida was supposed to be awash with bodies. That was over 8 weeks ago, and we still have no mountains of dead bodies. Some of us, myself included, the author says, overreacted. Initially, I think most were fine with the quarantine over the healthcare system overload and stop the spread reasons, but some Democrats, in typical fashion, decided to move the goalpost to say we needed to stay inside until we have a vaccine. No, that was never possible. We would all be out of work and out of food, probably. The overreach seen in some states is horrific, but hardly a shock given the political leadership at the helm. As we are shocked that deep blue and insufferably liberal New Jersey went off the rails in enforcing its lockdown measures that Governor Murphy admitted to drawing up without giving a thought to constitutional rights. It's a time to reopen, and now the liberal media and the health experts agree, but only because riots have sparked across the country that could weaponize to make the Trump administration look bad. That was some of the news that happened this week, some of the Carona news. There's been news in the religious world as well. We'll get to that next. Stay tuned.